Hello, I'm Steph Morrison from the Canadian Schoolhouse, and I'm actually here with another fine person from the Canadian Schoolhouse. You go ahead, say your name.
Hi, I'm Kristin Stewart, also from the Canadian Schoolhouse.
And Krista actually takes care of most of our content. So most of the stuff we see that we put out and publish on the site, Kristen is the one that just makes that all flow through the different stages and kind of manages the overseeing of that. But that's actually not what she's talking. She's talking about content in a way, but she's going to share a little bit about what she does herself, what she's done in blogging to start with, about what that journey has been for her, and also what she does for homeschoolers, so homeschoolers like yourself. So first, I wanted to mention just a couple of things about the Canadian Schoolhouse. If this is the first time you've been watching us, or if you haven't seen us too often, I want you to know you can go and check us out at thecanadianschoolhouse.com. You can join our weekly e-news, and what we share there, for one thing, we share articles about homeschooling. So we generally have a handful, six, I don't know, what do we do, Kristen? 6 to 10 probably articles, new articles a month.
6 to 10, 6 to 8, around there.
So we have, so we share some of those specifically directly in our e-blast, in that weekly e-news that we send out. So sign up to get that, check it out, and if it's something you don't end up reading and it's just cluttering your inbox, then you can so easily unsubscribe. But you can find that on our homepage there at thecanadianschoolhouse.com. And we also want to share, which we may just talk about a little bit more, how you can share on our site. So we kind of like to say that we are by homeschoolers for homeschoolers. Now, all of us working in the Canadian Schoolhouse are homeschoolers. So, and we do write some of that content on there, but we really love it when we get contributions. And I know I was just kind of looking over some of our March stuff, and I think we've got like 2 or 3 articles there, really interesting stuff contributed from others outside of the old schoolhouse. And we'd love to have you contribute. So whether that's you as the parent, the mom, or dads too, or even your teens, we have a section specifically that might be a great little project for your teens to have a real purpose in writing. So we have history and geography sections. And if you ever wanted to give your kids just a little bit of a motivation in a project, and then see it published online, that they can share that link and it just stays there, then have them get a little project, do a little research project on something about history, something about geography. We have actually a creator corner that would probably work well in that section as well, to have
even
creative,
they could write about their own community, because we've got that like Land and Culture of Canada series. So if you want to have your child write about your own community, they could do like a little research project in their community, include some links, some different things like that, or somewhere that you've traveled. That could be a neat little project, like for summarizing a trip. Write a little article about a place that you traveled, research a bit of it, and put in some cool links or pictures.
Even like trips, like those field trip kind of things, right?
Yeah.
Go to a museum and then get your kids to do a little bit more learning on it. Just because they're going to write a sort of report, you can say about what they'll do is write an article. They'll write an article about where they went, and then submit it. And we have somebody editing, we have somebody looking through it. You don't have to be, you or your teens don't have to be great writers, but you just have to share a story. And we've got editors to make it look right on our website, and all that kind of stuff. So it's great when we get contributed content like that. So anything that you want to write. So again, you can also find that on our website, as it says here at thecanadianschoolhouse.com. Scroll on down and you'll get a little bit more information on joining our writers team.
It's always good to have more opinions, because there's the 3 or 4 of us that write, but we've all got our own strengths and different styles of homeschooling. But it's always good to get other people. Other people are more experts on stuff that we might not have the knowledge on, or have different approaches to homeschool. And it's really good to hear from such a wide variety of people. So we really welcome and want contributors.
And that's kind of like maybe a nice segue, that writing content and sharing, as we titled this one, like sharing your passions. Is almost really something. I know that we have an article that's done for March, and just talk about sharing passions. Just the way this mom shares is really fabulous. You can tell like that she would be great doing a blog and sharing that information. So now what we also actually do, to let you know, is we also have themes every month. So our theme for this month, which is a little bit where we got the topic for this live stream, is on homeschool blogging. So we have a few articles. So Christine is in the background, being our perfectly wonderful tech person. Christine, you can share great. So just go right to the themes page. So that is the links to our themes page. You can see everything there right at the top. If you're watching this video in recorded video in February of 2023, right at the top is going to be the one about homeschool blogging. So you can see all the different articles there. And why don't you just run down what those articles are, Kristin? I'm thinking we got 3 articles on there. So what are the ones we had on our theme?
Yeah, there are some awesome ones. Actually, I think if anyone has any interest in blogging, I feel like we got awesome content this month.
Like a really different perspectives too. That's what I thought when we had those 3, like it's different perspectives for blogging.
Yeah, so we had Lisa Marie Fletcher, the Canadian homeschooler, write us an awesome article about how she got started with her blog, what gave her the desire to start it, how she started to earn money from it. She shared that one with us. That is an awesome one. And then we have a really neat article from Teresa about how she started blogging and then turned that into kind of videos, and then turned that into becoming like a life/homeschool coach. So I really enjoyed reading that one when I got to go through it when it was submitted. I was like, I want to talk to her. She's kind of doing like exactly what I do/want to be doing on a bigger scale. So that one's awesome. And then
I will actually put in, so I kind of met her. I mean, I've emailed with her a little bit, just putting her article on here, but I met her at the Canadian Online Homeschool Conference. So if you don't know about that, that just happened live last week, but it is still there. It's just like, I don't know, it's $17. I feel like that was like a price for like the next month. And I think that might go up. So depending when you're watching this, it might be just a little bit more, but it's still not very much more. Where you can see Teresa talk, and actually what she really does, and I thought she even did more of the curriculum stuff, but as she said when we were doing kind of one of the live chats that they just had during this conference, I was on one with her. So she was saying how like doing curriculum, if you're coming to me for curriculum, that's not for me. I'm more about like just helping the mom, like not be overwhelmed and or just organize themselves, and she's not focused on the curriculum part. And I know you said you were a little bit more focused on the curriculum part. I know that you would be great, Kristin, too, and encouraging moms in all those different ways too. But Teresa Wiedrich, she is so she's a homeschooling coach out of BC, I think, somewhere in Canada. I hope I'm right that she's out of BC. Not that it matters, because coaching like that can happen anywhere. But so I just wanted to put in that little extra thing about how, and that journey going from homeschool, like she was just blogging because she was sharing her passions.
Yeah, and I think at the beginning she even said it was just a way to get some alone time. Like she would just go, her husband would give her like, I don't remember if it was an evening or an afternoon or something, and she would just go to a coffee shop and write in her notebook. And then she started turning that into blog posts, and like how it all kind of went from there. So she just really started just like putting her own like feelings and heart on paper, and then it kind of steamrolled from there. Yeah. And then we have the third article on this theme is written by one of the old schoolhouse staff, Heidi, about the homeschool blogging community that we have through the old schoolhouse, where people can share their blog posts.
And that is homeschoolblogger.com. So you can go check that out. Well, check out the whole article. I'm not going to share too much about it right now, but we actually even have another video where we talked with Heidi about that. And we did that not too long ago. So maybe, Kristin, you can pop that link into the comments there. It can't be too old, but 2 weeks ago, I think it was probably maybe a month ago or something. But that is it's a little bit of a social media. So you can just do the whole groups and social media part. You can do the blogging part. And it's just one of those free blogging platforms. Like there's a few out there, but this one's specifically on, with a homeschool community built into it. So
yeah, I'd say if you do blog or are interested in blogging, all 3 articles from the theme this month are extremely helpful. They're all written by people who actually know what they're talking about and like have worked their blog from the ground up. And I think they're all really helpful.
So now you have a website from Kristin.
Yes, I have a very neglected website.
Yes, so it's a little bit of that blogging. And I think a lot of people can experience that because, for one thing, you can start even a website really cheap. Even if you go the route of actually paying for a hosting account, paying for your domain, it's still pretty cheap. And then there's so many free blogging platforms that a lot of homeschoolers use. But so why don't you walk us through a little bit about what your website is, what you have been blogging on it in the past, and kind of what your area of interest is, especially in that sharing passions and how you help homeschoolers.
Okay, so I only started my website, my blog, maybe 4 years ago. I started it when a lot of people where I was living at the time in Northern Alberta were starting to homeschool. And they were starting to ask me tons of questions. It was around the start of COVID, but it was a little bit before that. And so I just kind of realized, okay, people have a lot of questions for me. It would be good to share this. And I really enjoy writing. That's what I do here. So I enjoy writing. So I actually took a course, how to start a blog course from Rebecca Spooner, who used to have a blog. Now she's much more well known as the creator of Gather Round Homeschool. But before she did Gather Round, she had a very popular blog, and she did homeschool or how to blog courses. So I did that with her, and she walks you step by step through setting it up, not the actual writing of it, but she walks you through like designing it, purchasing it, getting your domain and all of that stuff. And it's a weekly course. So that's what I did because I have no technical knowledge at all. So the only way I was ever going to be able to do it was if someone walked me through it step by step. And even then, I'm sure I had to email her and ask her so many questions. Probably drove her crazy. But in the end, it got up and running. And then I did write on it for a while. And then when I started writing here, that was part of it. It seemed like I only had so much time to write and so many ideas for things to write about. And then also it seemed like I wasn't getting a lot of comments on my blogs, on my website. But if I would do a little bit of a lengthier comment or caption on my Instagram, I would get a lot of feedback there. So it just almost seemed like, well, I can do that, from my car while I'm waiting for my kids, or, I can do that a lot easier. And it seems to be seen by more people on the Instagram than what was getting seen on my blog. And really the whole reason I started to do any of it was because I just have such a passion for homeschooling and for encouraging and equipping other moms to do it. This, but not everyone listening, I guess, is that I used to be a teacher. So I was a classroom teacher from 2006 until 2012 when my daughter was born. Said that I was only going to take 6 months maternity leave, couldn't wait to get back to the classroom. And then now it's almost 11 years. It'll be 11 years this week since I still on that maternity leave. It's very long. And so
priorities changed.
Yeah, exactly. Priorities changed. Yeah. And so I think because I had been teaching, all my friends and the people who had known me, maybe I had taught their kids or something, and then they decided to homeschool. So many people were asking me questions. And I just felt like I want to use my knowledge. And because I was a little bit more confident with homeschooling, I wanted to be able to share with other moms that confidence. And they would say, if they were, for instance, an example, worried, well, how come, like, I feel like we need to do school till 3 o'clock because that's when it's still, you know, that's when school goes to. Well, then I can tell them, well, you know what? They're like, a lot of those hours at school aren't actually spent like learning, you know, they're going to the bathroom, having snacks. A lot of that stuff that happens just naturally at home. So you actually don't need to. And so I was able to really give them peace about some of those things they were struggling with. And that I grew to really love homeschooling and value the importance of it. And I wanted to be able to make sure that any mom who wanted to homeschool, could or would. Like, I didn't want them feeling like they didn't have the knowledge to hold anybody back. So I want to be able to say, like, you know what, if that's what you feel God asking you to do, or that's what you feel led to do, like, you can do it. I will help you. Like, I will help you until you get your feet under you. And I'm sure once you get going, you will realize that you can do it, but I will come along beside you and help you get it going. And yeah, I feel like I was able to help a lot of people get started, and some of them stuck with it after COVID, and some of them kind of didn't stick with it, but that's fine. Like, I'm really glad I was able to give them a little bit. So, like, they would say, oh, like, we were so worried and nervous about doing this, and you just made it so much easier. So I was, you know, that's what I wanted to do. I just wanted moms to be able to do what they felt called to do without worrying that they weren't able to do it.
And I mean, really, that's what we need most of the time. Even I think back, and now I've, you know, made that choice to homeschool when my kids were born, before they were born. But that doesn't mean that I didn't have times, even especially as they got older, where you had those doubts. And so I mean, really, any moms, just to have somebody around that they can turn to, and whether it's in a blog or social media, and you're completely right. I feel like social media I've even seen that shift from blogging to social media, whether it be, you know, Instagram or Facebook, or even lots that they do on Pinterest. Now, Pinterest is a little bit different, and then it's usually connected to a link that's on a website, but that really just a lot of people are looking in Pinterest, again, just looking for those ways to be encouraged, and we just want to be sure, you know, then that's kind of what our mission here is at the Canadian Schoolhouse, at the old schoolhouse, as far as the whole company, but just in the Canadian division here. It's definitely our mission here, that we just want to help people feel equipped to do it, because every single parent can educate their own children. And the thing is, there's a little bit of a conditioning in our minds to think that, oh, somebody else actually has to educate them, right? They need to be in this institutional setting to be properly educated, which hasn't been true for the majority of human history. So, and it still isn't true.
And I was totally caught up in that also, like, as when I was a teacher, I would never have considered homeschooling, right? And so it's crazy when I look back on how much God has changed and worked in my heart, but it also gave me the ability to see and to be able to tell people, like, so much of the skills I needed to teach in the classroom, I didn't actually learn in my university degree. Like, I learned once I got there, and like learned it from other people. So, you know,
that just alone probably was so comforting for people to
hear. And to say, like, you know what, if you don't understand the math that you need to teach your child tomorrow, like, there's a great chance that their teacher had to relearn how to do that before they taught that lesson too. Because when I was teaching grade 5 math, it was like, well, I haven't been in grade 5 for like, you know, 20 some years. So I need to, you know, I'd have to refresh the night before I would teach a math lesson sometimes. And I was a trained teacher, like, with my education degree. So I kind of tell people, like, as long as you're willing to learn, you can be a teacher. You can teach your kids.
Yeah.
Because you can learn. I have learned so much just from teaching my kids, like, from learning it along with them. You don't have to know everything to teach them. You just have to be willing to figure out what you don't know and learn things together.
And figure out how to source the right curriculum, because that's really, and I mean, even in any educational system, whether it's, a public, like elementary school, high school, university, college, like they're all using a curriculum. It's not even like that teacher, for the most part, it's not like that teacher created the courses, created the lessons, created that, right? They're just following a curriculum. And I'm sure what you went through a lot, like, just confirm or correct here, but a lot of it is about dealing with, so knowing a lot about learning in general, how maybe our brains work, and also dealing with big groups of kids. I've kind of heard that that's a lot that you get taught, and a lot that needs to be part of a teaching degree, right? Is how do you teach all these different brains, right, that sometimes work in different ways, being familiar with learning styles and all that.
And like a lot of classroom management stuff, and then like how to write up a lesson plan, how to develop your year. But when you're homeschooling, that's in a lot of cases that's already done for you. If you buy like a pre-made curriculum, like that's already laid out for you. You don't need to know how to do that. So and that is something that I did help people with also, is that's one of the main things that people came to me for help for. Like, I don't know what to use. It is so overwhelming if you start looking at all the different choices that you have, and like so many of them are good. Like, you can be happy with lots of different ones. But so sometimes people would come to me and say, like, I have no idea what to use, and I would help them narrow down, or for some people they just wanted me to choose it for them, and then I would just choose it for them or narrow it down. And that is one thing that I do try to do quite a bit on my social media. Even my social media use has been a bit lower lately, just because of how busy real life is. But I do try to show in my stories and save in my highlights as much of the curriculum that we use as I can, because it's so hard to just look at something on a website and know if you're going to like it without being able to look through it. That's one part. As a teacher, sometimes you can go to a store and really look through, but as homeschoolers, especially if you're in a remote location, like I always end up being, you can't just go to a store and look through them. So I do try to share on my Instagram and save them in my story highlights, just some flip throughs of some of the programs that we use.
And
I think some like tips and tricks too, because both my daughters are completely different learning styles, like completely different. My older daughter is a much more traditional learner, and she's getting older, so I probably share a little bit less about what I'm doing with her, but also just because her learning style is really just to sit and do it. Like, she doesn't want she just wants her pencil and her paper, and she just wants to get it done, really. And my younger daughter is a more hands-on, needs to be moving, needs to have it as simple as possible, needs a lot of repetition, a lot of stuff to do with her hands. She's challenged me, even with all my teacher training, like, to come up with ways to make things work for her that she would have, because I really want every kid to have a positive learning experience. And so I share quite a bit more about what I do with her, and also just to encourage moms, because she's just in grade 3 now, and this is the first year she's really reading confidently. And I feel like so many people now have in their minds that kids need to be reading in kindergarten or something. And my oldest daughter was, so I was guilty of that also. But I just had to really be patient and go at the snail's pace of my youngest daughter. But she's reading now, and she's reading for pleasure. And I think so I try to encourage moms, like, it's okay if your kid, like, just have patience, go at your child's pace. It's okay.
Yeah, we're kind of made to think that, well, when they're 11, they should be in grade 6.
Well, my daughter's 5? About to be 11, and she's in grade 5. I guess it depends on birthdays, probably.
Yeah, like we think, okay, well, in grade 5, they should know this, or this. And I even found, so with my older son, I really didn't do much with him until he was about 7. My younger son, I started doing things younger just because I was already, they're 3 years apart. So I was already doing things with my older son. So it just naturally gravitated in. And I find that's another thing where people, parents kind of think like, oh, what do they need to be reading by 5. They need to be, knowing this about numbers by this age and this age. And that's not the truth at all. That's not actually the way the brain works. It just, when you need to do mass education in big groups like that, it kind of has to work that way, right?
It has to be.
But
they can't teach. There's no way any teacher can possibly teach each student exactly where they're at. And like, I never want to take anything away from teachers. They are doing a hard job and a wonderful job. And most of them like love their students so much. There's only so much you can do in a classroom with 20 to 30 kids who probably all learn differently and are at a different place.
Yeah.
I
think you also have, we had that mention ago, I was thinking, oh, you would have such great insight on that. What was it? Oh, it's just right on just from your experience and your, so about teaching, about curriculum. So I think sometimes reading curriculum, so reading all the different types of curriculum about it online, and even kind of reading reviews. I mean, that's kind of one of the best things to do, be able to actually read reviews from other homeschooling families. They can put some insight in there for us to be able to choose the right thing. But I think you'd also have great insight because you've got a little bit of that education lingo in your mind. And even though I think curriculum companies that are doing it for homeschoolers, they do, you know, they're not trying to use a whole bunch of education lingo, but I think you can really have that feel because of your background, because of your background with your kids so far. Probably number one, but also because of your background in training and in education, right? That you've got this insight that can really help people navigate that. And that's really all you need as far as being a homeschooling parent, as far as teaching your kids, right? You just maybe need somebody to help you navigate. And sometimes you can do that, which is why blogs are so great. Like you can do searches. I even think of, you know, when I check out what the traffic is on our site on the Canadian Schoolhouse. And I mean, people are searching. So you can actually see, if you don't know that already, that you can search traffic, you can search keywords, and you can actually see what people are searching, what they're typing in, to know. So we use that to be able to write articles that people are searching for, right? And that's as a blogger, if that's something, you know, you that are watching, if that's something you want to do as a blogger, that's kind of what you want to do. You want to get into that search engine optimization. You want to be able to write articles that are write content on your website overall that's growing over time. Like there's just all these things with search engine optimization, with being able to get people to come to your site just because they've searched for it. And so that's a real big benefit of blogging. And you can do that in a really simple way and just share your passions, just like Kristin has shared, right? Like she started with something because she wanted to help homeschoolers. And I've done a similar thing. I actually started another blog just because we had a homeschool blogger come out. So I started a blog there as just a fun blog, not doing very much on it. It's not super active. Although I have gone back to my other business blog and I'm doing a lot more with that. And that's actually really just helping people work from home. And you know, that comes from my calling of, especially now, that can be anybody. There's lots of good reasons to work from home. You just don't, it's not just because you want to be able to educate your kids, but for me, that's what it was. That's what my passion was. I needed to work from home. I wanted to stay at home so that I could educate my kids as well. And especially be there for them when they were younger, right? Because there's not much education going on besides that normal learning when they're little, right? But I didn't even want to really put them in a daycare. I didn't want that for them. I wanted to raise them. And so I really wanted to do that for other people. So that was like me sharing my passion that way. And I am not a big social media person. So you have really taken that, and you are so great at like on your Instagram stuff. You're so great at sharing. And even though I know you said recently, like life gets busy and even that's sometimes hard to keep up on, but it's really something. Like if we can just share that, God's kind of put something on all of our hearts. He's given us all a purpose. And one of the great ways to be able to live that out is like just start with a blog, or just start with a social media profile. Because sometimes the blog thing can seem overwhelming, right? But just start sharing that and putting your stuff out there, and then see where that leads. And just like Teresa's article about kind of going from just blogging because it was her like outlet, you know, as she was beginning to homeschool, And then she took that into a career, right? To homeschool coaching, kind of same with you. You're kind of doing that homeschool coaching, a little bit more focused on the curriculum part, maybe, but you're still doing that. You're sharing about what you know as a trained teacher, but also how that really applies to kids and being able to put people at ease. And you seem to do it quite wonderfully and quite encouragingly.
And the thing is, like, even for me at the beginning, and even sometimes now, it's like, who am I that anybody wants to hear what I'm doing? Like, who really cares to see what we're doing in our homeschool or whatever? And like, who cares what I think about this? But then, you just have to remember, like, you never know who really is going to need that encouragement that day. And God can use any of us at any time, and you don't know who's going to need to see exactly what you have to say that day, like that moment. And it might be so that, start your Instagram and put whatever you want to put on, and you never know who's going to find encouragement by it.
And that's actually such a nice easy way to start, right? There's lots of benefits to having a blog, to having a website, but if that actually seems overwhelming and you feel in your heart that, hey, yeah, I do just want to encourage people in some way, or I want to share about like whatever it may be, whatever that passion is for you, start with the Instagram thing. Because that could be, or, whatever social media, there's quite a number of them. It doesn't have to be even one of the major ones. There's quite a few other ones that are, if you feel like you just want to dabble in something, then start with that. Start with just doing some Instagram posts and just being uplifting and encouraging and sharing things and seeing where that takes you, because you never know when that could take you, say, into a real like career, but simply just that purpose of encouraging people, almost like how we certainly in our culture, like volunteering, right? We're getting no financial compensation for it, but we don't expect to, but we look for opportunities to volunteer our time. And sometimes it's involved with our kids, right? We want to volunteer because we're helping out with sports, and I think you do that quite a bit too. I'm assuming that's volunteering when I hear about you doing volleyball and
lots of basketball and Bible. Yeah, a lot of stuff in my community. Yeah.
And I mean, all that stuff. And as you're probably doing all that stuff too, whether you're even specifically talking about homeschooling or not, right? You've got that opportunity to share as well. So kind of encourage that as another opportunity, even to get out in your community and share your passions by something you're doing to help out.
Yeah, there is definitely their blogging definitely has its important place though. And I do want to get back to doing it more because it gives you so much more space. If you really want to explain something, or it gives you so much more room for print, sharing links, sharing videos, like to actually explain something more. It is better for that, but it also, because of that, takes more time to produce, of course. So
it does. Yeah. But it is, there is actually just so many different ways that we can do that, to just be able to share whatever might be on our heart. And I just really encourage you all to start with something. And even with what it starts with, I think all of us, and I know even Kristin in the background, just our little pre-recording, pre-live chat here, we kind of all shared on that same thing. We all have blogs that have been neglected from time to time. But they're always there for us to go back to, should we want to. So I kind of encourage you all to at least start, even just go over to Homeschool Blogger and start something there. There's also like the free WordPress version, so you can just go on there, and there's a few other blogging platforms that you can just sign up with, and it's easy peasy to get your website up. Like there's not a lot of technical know-how for some of them. If you really wanted to take it serious and maybe you do want to get it into like a going some kind of career, well then there's steps you might want to get a little bit more into the technical stuff, or have somebody else do it for you. Whichever way works for you. But there is there's that way to make it a little bit more formal, but just start testing the waters with this free stuff that's out there. Social media is free, right? Blogging for the most part is free. You can certainly do that for free, right? And so there's just so many ways to dabble in this and test the waters for what is just right for you and your life and your time. Time is such a big one.
Right. Yeah. I always think that like, oh, I'm going to have so much more time once my kids aren't babies anymore, but that is not true.
No, I know.
That is the opposite.
Yep. It's like there's more to fill up.
Yeah.
For sure. Well, thank you, Kristin, for joining us. I'm so glad that you had the insight you had to share. I'm actually so glad that you just have the insight where you share over on Instagram. So I hope any of you that are listening, whether you're listening live or listening to the recording, go and check out Kristin on Instagram. You can go check out her website too, from Kristin.com. And she probably has an Instagram link there where it's more active, but
yeah. And I did want to say, like, I answer any and all private messages on my Instagram. So if you want help with, if you're having trouble with your curriculum or knowing what to use, or if you've got a student that's having trouble and you're not sure, you know, how to adapt or how to teach them, and you might want some tips, I answer all messages. So anyone can message me on Instagram at any time, and I will get it probably that day, but if not, within 2 days, and I can help with most of that stuff. And if I can't help, I'll probably be able to find you somewhere that you can get help.
Resource to link to. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Well, thanks so much for being here, Kristin. And thank you everybody for watching.
Awesome. Thanks.